In Gujarat, India, exists the land feature known as Mount Girnar. According to Jainism, it is believed to be the location where the next 24 Tirthankars will obtain nirvana. Standing at 3,672 feet, Mount Girnar is covered with over 800 Hindu and Jain temples that are spread across its summit. In order to reach the final summit, one has to climb 9,999 steps. Diwali, a festival of lights, is held yearly and celebrated by Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs. The festival symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. At Mount Girnar, every year during the Dev Diwali, thousands of people circumambulate a 38-kilometer route around the mountain, walking clockwise. The road taken through the forest is only open 5 to 10 days during parikrama. Pilgrims are not all that wrap around the mountain. Linear features are present in the local terrain. Surrounding the mountain is a hexagonal pattern of linear features. While the mountain shows 6 sides, its topography tells a different story. The topographical map of Mount Girnar shows 4 sides surrounding the mountain. And when we zoom out further, we see a band wrapping around the mountain. This leads to the question of what might have caused this. In the Bhagavata Purana, the king of the Silwa kingdom is said to have had a high-tech aerial vehicle crafted for the purpose of destroying the city of Dwarka and to kill his hated enemy, Lord Krishna. The flying vehicle named Salba, made of iron, was constructed by Maya Danava and presented to the king of Salwa. Upon his attacking Dwarka, a fierce vortex is said to have arose, blanketing the area with billowing dust. After the attack on Dwarka, meaning gateway to heaven, Krishna was able to take out the Vimana, but not before the city could be lost to the ocean. Afterwards, Krishna is mistaken for a deer and shot in the foot and fatally injured, and so was said to begin the Kali Yuga. Today, ancient Dwarka is thought to have been sunk off the western coast of India. The city is described as being built on a lake, having bridge entries and a port entry. It has been described as further being built on 6 pillars or mounds, 2 on the right and 4 on the left. Underwater ruins have been found by modern Dwarka, but none matching details of the Mahabharata, where the city had 900,000 royal palaces composed of silver, gold, and gems. In the Mausula Parva, Arjuna describes the submergence of Dwarka as follows. The sea, which had been beating against the shores, suddenly broke the boundary that was imposed on it by nature. The sea rushed into the city. It coursed through the streets of the beautiful city. The sea covered up everything in the city. I saw the beautiful buildings become submerged one by one. In a matter of a few moments, it was all over. The sea had now become as placid as a lake. There was no trace of the city. Dwarka was just a name, just a memory. With color-shaded relief of bathymetric data, we can see there is a region matching geological description of ancient Dwarka. More, there is a seamount chain having a golden ratio phi spiral curvature to the west of the location. While the golden ratio is commonly in nature in plants and other living beings, arcs on the surface of the earth tend to be results of longitudinal propagation of waves rather than having a phi ratio curvature. This is indicative of a spiraling energy in the formation of the seamount chain and not a longitudinally propagating wave. Globally, there are countless examples of formations being created by waves moving longitudinally. Island arcs such as in the Caribbean, the whole of the Ring of Fire, the Indonesian archipelago, and the Scotia Arc, all were formed by longitudinally propagating waves. Continents experienced these forces as well in the forming of mountains such as the Appalachians and Himalayas. Across the world, arcs are of this dimension, atoms pushing atoms. Yet the phi ratio arc of the Arabian Sea seamount chain distinctly requires a spiraling energy of a vortex, and a fierce one at that, to produce it. With such a distinct feature, the vortex must have rapidly lost energy. In other words, a spontaneous discharge of the energy of the vortex would have to be released from the system to the Earth. The vortex of such a system could allow an abundance of ether particles in so as to even created a detectable nucleus. Evidence shows that the region of Gujarat, India, is highly scarred with not only anomalous currents, as if an otherworldly lightning storm passed through the area, but even a trail is visible. The nucleus of the system appears to have left behind a depressed and scorched land. If the nucleus passed over land, it could have gouged the land with its downward flowing wind and energy, creating the Gulf of Kunch and the Gulf of Kambat. If the land was sufficiently hardened, then it would stay intact and instead be heated. The scorched trail leads southward until it reaches what appears as a lightning strike on the ground. Surrounding this feature is a border, as if the flow of energy of such a lightning strike pushed mountains around its edge. A lightning imprint pointing directly at the most defined point of the hexagon surrounding Mount Girnar. Mount Girnar is an intrusion considered to have formed about 1 to 2 million years ago in the plains of Kathiawar in the midst of the Deccan Traps. Indeed, the Deccan Traps appear to exist in the region that the vortex of the storm occupied. This can be inferred from the length of the seamount chain. While the nucleus traveled over a focused location, the bands of the storm would have moved above the land. The Deccan Traps are a large igneous province of west-central India. It is one of the largest volcanic features on Earth. seen as a large shield volcano. It is composed of solidified flood basalt layers, considered to be the result of a giant volcanic eruption over a large area. The Deccan Traps are more than 2,000 meters thick and covering an area of 500,000 square kilometers. While the nucleus would have been most energetic, a region of subtle particles in such abundance so as to be capable of creating a void of atoms, thus allowing the most cosmic energy through to the surface of the planet, its bands would have allowed cosmic flows into the region below the storm, which could produce a large flood basalt on the earth below. The traps are considered to have erupted in phases, as bands of a sufficient storm could induce across a period of 700,000 years, around 66 million years ago. It is worth noting, radiometric dating relies on constant decay rates to determine an age. However, it has been shown that decay rates are seasonally dependent and therefore are only useful as relative ages rather than absolute ages when comparing to modern rates of decay. If we allow for the time of absolute ages to be contracted while maintaining the sequence of events as suggested by radiometric dating, the connection of these anomalies with Deccan Traps leads us all the way to the other side of the Earth. Occurring in the same period, the Chicxulub crater has been considered as a possible cause of the Deccan Traps. However, the Deccan Traps are considered to have begun before the impact. The linking of the two is because they are also somewhat antipodes, about 5,000 kilometers from it. Importantly, in the times of Dwarka, the Earth had yet to expand. While plate tectonics is generally described as the process under which the Earth functions, it assumes the existence of an ocean as the remaining surface area of the planet of a single continent when Pangaea existed. However, this is not the case. The Earth expanded. All continents were one single landmass making up the totality of the surface of the Earth. While it is difficult to remap the Earth prior to expansion, a pre-expansion Earth brings the Deccan Traps and Chicxulub to much more antipodal positions. The expansion of the Earth occurred when sufficient activation energy was present for a reaction in the Earth to occur. The Yucatan Peninsula was positioned in the region of Chile and Peru. The flow of ether from the storm was funneled through the Earth and out the other side of the planet, applying an outward pressure on the crust. And the Earth, under extreme stress from internal pressure building up, began to fracture. Apparent first along the Mediterranean, as can be seen from the oceanic crustal age. As the fracture occurred, it sent shock waves into the edges of the continental shelf in the direction the fracture propagated. And when the fracture reached the energetic antipode, the Earth exploded.